Hey guys, how is everybody doing? Continuing on with the Nightmare on Elm Street review series, here are my thoughts on Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. My positives on Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors is the new characters. I absolutely love these characters. It's what I miss about horror movies today, is likable characters and people that you root for. But nowadays, it's just horrible adults and teenagers just being on their iPods and iPhones, being dickheads, basically. But you get great characters here. You get Kirsten Parker, you get Taryn White, I believe her name is. You get Dr. Neil Gordon, who is a very likable character, and he's probably the one character in this movie where he wants to help the kids. He's the one adult that wants to help these kids, and he doesn't exactly believe them, but he's willing to help them. And then when he finally finds out, he wants to help them more. He knows about Freddy. He's learning about him from this sister of this movie. He's a very likable character. And as I said, Kristen, she's an awesome character where she's able to bring in people into her dreams, and she can do like backflips and cartwheels in her dreams. The name of the Dream Warriors, which that's all you can do in a dream is just cartwheels and just backflips. I mean, I'm not complaining. If that's what you want to do in your dreams, I'm not gonna yell at you, but I expected something better. Karen White, who is like a former drug addict and is only in this hospital just to get better, and so that she doesn't get back on the drug trade again and everything like that. So, and her dream power is that she's a badass, where she's kind of dressed up like some of the '70s, like a gang member of Switchblades, and she's like saying, "I'm beautiful and bad in my dreams." Like, you're always beautiful. My personal favorite, Kincaid. Man, is he such an awesome character. I love him. He's possibly my favorite character of this entire franchise. I'm sorry, I love you, Nancy and Freddy, but goddamn, I love Kincaid. Kincaid is awesome. I love every single one of his one-liners, like how he's just calling out Freddy. He's like, "Come on, Freddy, you pussy," and then he's just like bending chairs in his dreams, breaking through walls and everything. He's such a badass character, and I love his smart ass personality, where he's always getting in trouble, like how Kristen Glover's character later on in this movie, where it's just like, "Oh, get a good look at him," because he's always in the quiet rooms. Like, I only get in there so I don't have to look at you, ugly ass. Like, just for that one scene alone, it's just like, this guy's awesome. He's a funny character, he's a badass character, and most of all, he is likable. Not just likable, lovable. I love Kincaid. He is my favorite Dream Warriors character. Top 5 favorite Nightmare on Elm Street characters in my mind. Top 3, possibly. I love Kincaid. I've always loved him. He's I love his personality. I love his jokes and how like he talked about his dick and everybody else insulting him. He's a great character. I adore Kincaid. He's such a lovable character. Not just a normal character, just like Will, who is paralyzed, and apparently he's in the hospital because he tried to jump to his own death, but that didn't end well, and he ended up paralyzed, and so he's in the hospital. They don't really explain why he tried to kill himself, but who cares? He's awesome. And then he's like that nerdy character who's into Dungeons and Dragons and who loves wizards and fantasies and all that. And his dream power is that he's the Wizard Master. Okay, that one is a little bit silly. Joey. Joey always seems to crack me up every time I rewatch this movie. I don't know what it is about Joey. Joey is just his character. He's a mute throughout this entire movie. He can't talk. I don't know if they explain it. I don't remember. But his character is a mute, and his weakness in this movie is literally just girls. That's his weakness. It's like every time he sees like a girl, he'll just like I don't know what it is. This guy fucking cracks me up. And he got the hots for this one nurse chick in this throughout this entire movie, and then like when they're all dreaming, he goes and like tries to get laid with her and everything because he has had a crush on her throughout the entire movie, and then turns out being Freddy. I love that his character is basically his one weakness is just titties and ass. who am I joking? Setting of this movie. I don't know what it is, but for some reason, hospitals always give me like this weird, like feeling. I don't know what it is. It always has for some reason. You got movies like Halloween 2, The Exorcist 3. I guess Halloween Kills too, but I don't really include that one much. But those are really the two that come to my mind. And then that one episode of Chucky in Chucky season 1. There's always something about a hospital in horror movies that kind of creep me out for some reason. I've never been afraid of hospitals. I've never had a anxiety every time I go to a hospital. But what freaks me out about a hospital about horror movies is that when you're in a hospital, the doctors and nurses like they won't help you because they just think you're wacko when really all this is real, but they just think you're crazy. And I just love the hospital setting where it's just so sanctuary to where they can't get out of there, they can't get like the people to like help them, and they just think they're crazy and they just need help and sleep, but but really they just don't know that they're fucking killing their patients. I mean, who doesn't love killing their patients, right? Anyways, I love the hospital setting of this movie. It's my favorite setting throughout the entire franchise. Yeah, sure, we got the famous house of this franchise, but when it comes to a house, you can run out of the house. But a hospital with these patients, they can't leave because one's a drug addict, one tried to kill themselves, looked like they were trying to kill themselves. Jeez, what's with people trying to kill themselves? And then you got one dude who's a withered master. Positive is returning Nancy and John Lithgow. John Lithgow? What? John Saxton, sorry. Why did I say Lithgow? John Saxton and the Nancy return, or Donald, whatever the fuck you want to call him. Nancy is my favorite final girl of this franchise. Even when I was younger, I was so upset when she never came back to the second movie. When you get like a small little 5-year-old, that's me, and when you get such a lovable character as Nancy, and you're like, oh, maybe she's gonna be in the second one. But no, they let me down. They really let me down. And I didn't get to watch this movie for a while because when I first bought these movies, I never owned three. Why? Because the people that I bought them from, they decided not to give me three, and then I had to buy then I had to buy a collection, and then I finally bought it. I was like, yes, Nancy's back. Oh, they killed her. I'll get into more of that. I love Nancy. I love seeing her return. I love seeing her throughout this entire movie, helping out the kids and being like, "Hey, I've lived through this too. I know what you're going through. I know how to beat Freddy. I know how to stop dreaming." I love Nancy throughout this entire movie, and even seeing her father come back in a short role. John Saxton, rest in peace. It's always great to see him in a movie, in this movie, where he's kind of like depressed since Marge's death in the first movie. Where he's kind of just chugging down booze, and he's a little drunk when we first meet him, and he's just like, "Hey, Freddy's dead," and all that. I don't want to talk about Freddy's dead yet. Seeing those two return, it's great. Nancy, it's one of my favorite final girls of all time, up there with Sydney Prescott. I love seeing Nancy return. It's always great seeing Nancy back for a film, and sadly, her faith kind of put me on edge for a while. But we got her in Wes Craven's New Nightmare. It's not the same. Positive is I really love the effects in this movie. My favorite effect is probably like the giant worm when uh when Kristen is dreaming Kristen and stuff like that, where she's dreaming and then like Freddy's like taunting her and like he's going along the walls, like kind of look like something's moving, but you don't see it. Then all of a sudden this big giant ass worm just comes out and just slams her on the ground and then slowly like just eating her alive. That whole effect is awesome. I loved watching behind the scenes on that. How it was created by Kevin Yeager, who came up and created the Chucky doll. I'm a big Chucky fan, so of course I appreciate that. But I love the effects in this movie. Another standout in my mind is the stop motion effect where Freddy becomes like a puppet, and like he because of Philip, I believe the character was, where he like makes marionettes and he becomes like a little marionette himself, and there's like a cool stop motion where he cuts himself down and kind of walks up for a few seconds. It's a very short scene, but it pays off for how short it was, how short it is. And then all of a sudden, Freddy just gets bigger, and then he just cuts open Philip's like up from here on his arms, and then like the same way for his legs. I don't know. When I was younger, I remember that kind of like grossed me out and always made me uncomfortable because the fact that he's being controlled by his veins and all that. I was like, ew. Like to this day, it still creeps me out. Like, oh fuck. Like I remember when I was younger when that happened. I could feel it just like right here. And I was like, oh fuck. And like I was just like controlling him like a little marionette. I love the effects in this film. They age beautifully in my mind, especially the whole dream sequences and all of that. Like the opening scene where Kristen is running away from Freddy and she's like walking in like goo and all that. The effects in this movie, it's prime for its time. Hey, that rhymed. The effects in this movie, it does not age a bit. They age beautifully. And see, this is how practical effects over does CGI. But no, they just don't want to spend the extra cash on it. Cheap fucks. Thinking of like the little marionette kill, I love the kills in this movie. They're all very creative, they're all fun, especially the first two deaths in this movie, where they're kind of set up as suicides. That's what's kind of been going on in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, where Freddy kind of makes it look like a suicide or made somebody make it look like somebody else did it. But in this movie, like the first two kills, like the little marionette thing and all that, where Philip later in the movie he said that he was a sleepwalker when he was just walking around like being controlled by Freddy. Everybody just thought he was sleepwalking, but no, he was, and like he was being controlled, and he was standing there like making him look wide awake, look like he was about to commit suicide, and then he cuts off all of his veins and just has him fall to his death, and he makes it look like a suicide. That's a very cool scene, a very great kill, and then you got probably one of my favorite scenes in the Nightmare on Elm Street series. It has my favorite one-liner of all time is where that one chick who wants to be a movie star, I forget her name, where she's like going up to the TV, like she wants to be a movie actress, and all of a sudden Freddy comes out of the is on TV, and he's like, "Who gives a fuck what you think?" He kills like that one lady on the TV. She goes up and pounds it, and then just breaks open, and the hands come out, and lifts her up, and then he just comes out, and he's like, "Welcome to prime time, bitch," and he just slams her into the TV, making it look like she did it. Well, that. Oh, how does she? I don't know. That one liner, mwah. And then you got other kills, like sure, some of them are just like generic, like Will's death, where he's like the wizard master and he picks up and he just stabs him. It's just like, yeah, that's generic, but come on, it's still pretty badass. Like, come on. One kill by Tria, where Tria, you know who I'm talking about, the drug chick, and where her and Freddy are fighting and all that. She's like, "Why do we have to fight?" And then all of a sudden, he's like, his blade hand becomes needles, and then his regular hand becomes needles. Goes, "Let's get high," and then he just stabs her into like these weird little mouth things on her arms. Like it's like, "Ooh, what the fuck?" And then he just like overdoses her, and he goes, "Oh, what a rush!" Like, kind of looked like he had an orgasm. What? It has to do with Freddy himself. To me, this is the only Nightmare on Elm Street movie where they got the perfect blend for Freddy. This is where we get to know Freddy as his comedic side of the character, as where he's like the goofy guy who, not goofy guy, but like a killer that cracks one-liners and makes jokes every time he kills people. And this is that film, but to me, this is the best. This is the only Nightmare on Elm Street film to where it had a perfect blend of scary Freddy and funny Freddy. Where since Wes Craven wrote the initial draft for this film, and where he was more serious, a lot darker, a lot scarier, and everything. But then you got the guy who made Shawshank Redemption and the guy who directed this film. They came in and wrote some of the comedy bits of the film, where they took out some dark aspects, but they added some few comedy aspects. And let me tell you, they outdid themselves. Wes Craven said that he still wanted there to be a dark tone, so they allowed it, but they had a few jokes here and there, so they just basically took those two things and blended them together, and we got the second best interpretation of Freddy. I still think his scary side is better. I love that version of Freddy. He is awesome in this movie. Like him and Chucky, man. That's what I love about Chucky and Freddy is that they're both similar. Like their first few films, they were scary and everything. Like their first two films, they were scary, but then later on as they went, they became more comedic and more horror and comedy characters. But I feel Freddy does it better. I'm sorry. But yeah, this is the only Nightmare film where they got the perfect blend of scary Freddy and funny Freddy. Because throughout this entire movie, you're scared of Freddy. Like, this guy is like a child murderer. And, like, he has his scary aspects, like the giant worm thing. But in other things, he's just like, this guy's pretty funny. Like, come on, laugh. Come on, laugh. I'm really glad that this was the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie to really explore Freddy Krueger because the the only thing that we knew about Freddy in the first two films is that he was a child murderer, maybe a child molester, but they never really came out and said that, and that was like a deleted draft of the script at the time. So that could he could be a child murderer. He is a child murderer, but possibly a child molester. They don't really go that far in this original series. Excuse me. But this is the one where we really explore Freddy and like how he became so fucked up, basically. Where Freddy Krueger's mother worked at some kind of like mental hospital or something, but during Christmas break, his mother was locked away with the inmates during Christmas and was locked up there for months until they came back and saved her. And she was raped by over 100 men, and that's how we got the nickname the bastard son of 100 maniacs. Now, yeah, sure, that is very controversial today and probably not be allowed today, but I just want to make this clear. Just because you're raped by a bunch of, like, crazy, murderous, rapist people, just because they were crazy people, does not really intend that your child would become that way. That's not how that usually works, but that's what they go for here. But let's be honest. A baby who is the son of 100 people, yeah, and the fact that she was raped, too, and then she didn't get rescued until Freddy was and during those months, apparently he was born when they found her. Dude, that's really fucked up. I'm sorry, that is fucked up. I don't know who just comes up with that. We're just gonna write a horror movie about our one of our favorite horror icons, but you know what we're gonna do with him? We're gonna make him 100 sons of a hundred. We're gonna make him a son of 100 maniacs. That's right. His mother was diddled. I probably shouldn't say that. And my next positive. You cannot go without one video. If you ever make a review on this movie, there's no way nobody's gonna talk about that bitchin' song written by Dokken. We're the Dream Warrior. There's very few horror movies where they have metal songs in them. Rock is my favorite genre of music, and when you take my favorite genre of my favorite genre of movies, possibly, and my favorite genre of music, and you put them together, and then you get that bitchin' song written by Dokken, it just gets my dick hard. My final positive, so you can, for some reason, finally hear me shut up about how awesome this movie is the one-liners in this movie. This is by far the best one-liners of the franchise. I'm sorry. I don't care whatever the fuck you people say. Like I've already mentioned them. You got Welcome to Prime Time, bitch. You've got Let's Get High, where he comes with all the needles, and then you got like a pretty funny one in my mind. He's like, "Sorry, kid, I don't believe in fairy tales," and then stabs Will. This is the best one-liners of Freddy. Like even like a cool like Wizard of Oz reference where Nancy's telling him to let the quiet kid go Ronnie. I'm forgetting names. I'm sorry. He's just like, let him go. Krueger's like, your wish is my command. Then just starts letting him go, de-tonguing him. That's a weird fucking sentence to say. Moving on to my mixed aspects. And this is the only issue that I've ever had with this film. The only thing that has really pissed me off. And that is killing off Nancy and her father. You get Nancy Thompson, who's by far the best character of the franchise, minus Freddy. And then you get her father, who's a very likable character and who we get to know more about throughout this entire movie. You bring them back in an awesome way to fight off Freddy one last time, and then you just kill him off. Now, you get a great send off to the characters. A fantastic send off. This was the best way to send them off. I will say that. And what really doesn't keep it from my negatives is that I understand why they did it, because they wanted to kind of welcome these new characters, kind of like Scream now, like they killed off Dewey, so these new characters can shine throughout the franchise, but they did not kill Gale. Yeah, I know this might sound controversial, but I hope they kill her off in Scream 7. I'm sorry, they do. But this was the best way to kill off the characters. It was a great send off, but you're stabbing me in the gut. I miss Nancy. All in all, guys, I have nothing wrong with this movie. There's nothing wrong with Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, except for that one thing. Except for that one thing that I can forgive for this film. It's by far the best horror movie sequel out there. It is that fucking good. It might be my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie on this Eponymous rewatch. It is that good. This is an awesome movie. This is an awesome slasher movie. And if you ever want to get introduced to horror, I recommend the first and third Nightmare on Elm Street film. So for some reason that you don't own this movie, what are you doing with your time? Get off the couch, stop whatever you're doing, and go out and buy it. What do you guys think about Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors? Have you seen it? What did you think about it? Are you like me and you think this is an absolute classic and love it to death? Or are you like the 2% of the earth and think that this movie's stupid? Let me know in the comments below and we will talk about it. And if you like this video, like it. And if you love to subscribe, hit the bell notification so you will get notified for my latest videos. But, of course, until my next video, see you next time.